Hello, my name is Romit Shrivastava, and today I'll be taking a demo interview for the role of Associate Product Manager using Talsek's screening interview feature. Let's quickly begin. I will just quickly allow my microphone for this website and I will start the interview. Hi, Romit Shrivastava. Let's start with a quick introduction. Could you tell me about your academic background, what you're currently working on in your role, and a brief summary of your professional experience? Okay. Hey guys, my name is Romit Shrivastava. I graduated from NIT Karnataka in 2023. Post that, I started working with Wells Fargo for around 2 years as a product analyst, and now I am a full-time founder of Talsek. Prior to my full-time experience, I interned in startups called QMath and Ziva as a product manager intern. I also had multiple projects done during my time in college, and yeah, that's pretty much about me. Describe a feature you owned where you defined requirements and success metrics. What metric did you choose? How were they measured? And what was the outcome? Okay, so during my internship time at QMath, I was specifically charged with a feature called for our pilot product at the time, where we had to evaluate the incoming leads so that it will save time for our sales team. Uh, uh, in order to evaluate only the best leads that were coming in. So I was assigned with this particular problem statement. What I did was I designed a system of, let's say, incoming leads in a way where I could evaluate their quality based on the schools that they filled for their kids, given that this was an edtech platform. And we figured out if they were high value leads or low value leads, or what was their level of payment capacity, because this was a pilot product and it was slightly towards the expensive side. I determined and automated this whole process using Google Maps API, and which will determine the school that they enter, and that was then further classified into like if it was a very high paying school or a very high quality of school. We determined that the parents were also quite capable and they took their education of their kids very seriously. That means they were high value leads and they get qualified for the sales team to contact first and complete their quota. So that was my feature. And as far as outcome is concerned, after 2 months of my internship and working on this particular implementation, I was able to increase this metric of scoring of these incoming leads from 37% to an amazing 68%, as per the time that I was leaving, and the feature is still in use in the company. This metric particularly represent the leads that were coming in and how much could we even evaluate. So there would be so many schools that did not have, let's say, like a rating or literally like a description because they were very interior or did not have much information. So this metric represented that out of the 100 leads, let's say, that we would get in a day, the number of leads that we could assign a score to, which could be any of these, be it a high value lead, a medium value lead, a low value lead, or a null value. Uh, the number of scored leads would be 68% by the end of my internship. Before I even started working on this was a completely manual process where only about 35 to 37% of the incoming leads were even being scored by a bunch of interns manually, whereas I completely automated this process and drove the metrics to 68% by the end of my internship. That's great. That's it. So this means that my answer was quite satisfactory as per the screening, as per our AI, right? So we have gone to the next question now. Okay, tell me about a time you ran and analyzed an A/B test or user research that changed prioritization. What was your role? What decisions did you make and metrics moved? Okay, so during my internship at Ziva, I was charged with running quite a few A/B tests for their marketing efforts and what worked best with the teenage audience that we were sort of working with. Mind you, Ziva was a company that was offering uh, cards which would be loaded by their parents for their expenditure and their usual day-to-day life. And we would offer a lot of reward system for them to be able to use our cards. And our biggest challenge was acquiring new customers at the time, given that we were at a very very early stage. So my A/B test purely dependent upon let's say what adverts and what efforts or marketing efforts even worked and brought us the most number of customers. Now, user research was very dependent on demographic, but since these financial companies already existed in markets like US and Europe, we were able to gauge a good amount of insights on what basically worked with these kind of these kind of audiences. But however, we had to cater it to the Middle East demographic as well. Let's see what the AISS is, because I've not answered this very in depth. Can you describe a specific A/B test you ran, including the variation tested? So the specific variation that we tested was, let's say in our app for the existing users itself, we changed the home screen to a rewards page for every time they would spend, rather than just a dashboard kind of thing, because it's not really fun for these teenagers to use, which got us a lot more engagements. In terms of marketing efforts, instead of running things like Google ads or Meta ads, we focused way more on events, which was like an experiment that we worked with. Secondly, even coming to ads, we ran like various kinds of campaigns. Some that were driven by influencers paid us a lot more, so those were some kind of tests that we ran in order to drive these metrics up. Can you provide details on a specific A/B test? See, again, I have not very clearly answered the question yet over here again. So it's further questioning me to understand in depth, and I've not answered all the questions that were asked. So again, I'm being re-questioned on some some further details that the AI would like clarified before we can move on. Okay, can you provide details on a specific A/B test, such as the exact variations you tested? Example, control versus variant, your role in designing and analyzing it, key metrics tracked like engagement rate and conversions, results, and how the impacted prioritization. Okay, great. So I've already described some of the A/B tests that we did. My specific role in doing these A/B tests were actually heading it. I took charge of the events side of things in order to drive in more acquisition. Regarding the app example that I took, we ran an A/B test which had a lot more rewards and gamified system as our main page, that drove the engagement on the app up by 10% compared to the normal variant, just giving us the base version just giving us like not as much compared to the latest A/B test that we ran. So that was one of the key results that we were able to find, where new users would come and be converted. Secondly, I would also like to add that there was a referral program that we ran. So each student would get, let's say, certain reward, or each person using the app would get a reward for referring to their friends and families or whatever, and they were also rewarded. That also sort of worked well for us in the conversion process. Let's see how my answer sort of we won't be getting a follow-up, because at max there's two follow-ups for a question, and then the AI does an assessment at the end, which you will be able to see in the dashboard, which I will show later. All right, next question. Could you please elaborate on the nature of your role at Testline EdTech Startup 2024? Okay, how it fit alongside your responsibilities as a product analyst at Wells Fargo? Okay, good question. So, my role at Testline was purely a freelance driven motive where I wanted to study more. None of it was related to Wells Fargo by any means. As I mentioned, it was a freelance gig which I did to teach myself about product growth and development, and it was purely independent. I worked outside of my working hours at Wells Fargo in order to hone my skills, and I was working directly with the founder and implementing some initiatives at the company, which led to a good growth and progress at the startup, as well as for my personal learning. That's about it. Okay, let's see how the AI assesses this. All right, it's asking me about the specific initiatives because I purposely left that point out. So, in order to show you how the AI captures my response and then based on that creates a follow up question. All right, let's look at this. Can you describe the specific initiatives you implemented at Testline and how they contributed to the company's growth? All right. So the specific initiatives that I headed at Testline were purely related. One was to implement a new sort of venture or a growth experiment you can call, where we brought in experts that were experts on particular subject matter to clear doubts of students, and I organized that whole let's say experiment you can say for growth where we would organize weekly sessions with these experts to clear doubts of students. And at the time, of course, the revenue of the startup was not so much, but the amount that we were able to generate from this particular growth experiment purely from students led to almost increase the revenue of the company by 10% in that matter. And yeah, that was one of the initiatives. Secondly, I was in charge of running Google ads and meta ads at Testline, and in that process I was also teaching myself performance marketing and all these growth hacks, and how to assess the keywords and which ad is performing better than the other. These were some things that I was able to control, and I took charge of these initiatives, meanwhile teaching myself also the basics of these fundamentals of performance marketing and growth. All right, so okay, it has a further few questions on what exact metrics and strategies you used for Google Ads and Meta Ads campaigns based on my response. All right, sure. So the specific metrics were purely the conversion numbers and my ROAS, the return on ad spend, and second biggest driver was which keywords perform the best. So on a daily basis I would monitor all the keywords and how they perform in terms of converting the adwords and which ads were ranking higher and converting much better. I was charged with making sure that we run the ads in the most efficient way, which meant that for the keywords that were best performing, whereas the most under represented keywords such as like it's not used by a lot but converts a lot of people, so it would take us less effort to rank higher with those amount of keywords and will bring in more number of conversions. So that was my particular strategy in terms of identifying these keywords, and we were able to drive the number of downloads, monthly downloads, from around 500 in the previous month to around 2500 to 3000 daily downloads by the end of my tenure. All right, so I think two follow-ups were done, so we're moving to the next question. Now, could you describe the reason for the relatively short durations of your intern roles at Ziva and QMath and your okay. So, regarding my roles as interns at Ziva and QMath, they both are internship roles, and internship roles tend to last around 6 months normally, at least in the Western countries, whereas in India, they are only for about 2 months to 3 months at a stretch. My QMath internship lasted from around May of 2022 to August of 2022, whereas my Ziva internship was from December to January, and that's about it. As I mentioned in the previous answer as well, associate product manager role at Testline was a freelance gig, and I only did it on a part-time basis outside of my work hours from Wells Fargo. Hence, why it was I only did it for 4 months, and I wanted to then pursue something much more severe of mine, something more seriously, because I was at that point I was done with just learning, but it was significant enough to mention in my resume. Hence, why I have mentioned it in my resume. Thank you. Let's see what the AI says. If it has further doubts, it will ask me. All right. Can you clarify the company names? You mentioned Ziva and QMath in your answer, but the question referred to Ziva and QMath. Also, what exactly did you accomplish in the associate role at Testline and during those 4 months? Okay, so here's a critical evaluation where the questions do not have context from the previous questions, but it is purely an independent question. Hence, why we are being questioned on this again. All right. The, the company names are the same. It's just a clarification or a confusion on the on the names, but yeah, what you mentioned is correct. And yeah, so my APM role at Testline, I was able to accomplish quite a few things. I was able to drive some company growth numbers, and I was also handling growth initiatives at Testline in those 4 months. All right. A specific example of growth initiatives were conducting an experiment or a growth experiment with expert guidance as a feature, which drove the revenue numbers up by 10%. Secondly, I was also managing Meta ads and Google ads at Testline to drive the growth numbers again, and I was able to move the daily downloads from 500 to 3000 within 4 months. All right, so this is just our AI clarifying all the questions, all the doubts. Now we should be moving to the next question. Why are you looking for a change in employment? All right. Again, this question does not have an AI assessment attached to it, purely because it's a very subjective answer. I'm looking for a change in employment because I am very particularly interested in product companies and strict product roles where I can hone my skills as a product manager into owning a feature end to end. This is some opportunity that I wasn't really getting at Wells Fargo, and hence why I'm looking for a change in employment. Let's see what the AI says. All right. Okay. So now we move on to the section of the interview which we call the manual input section, where these are the screening questions which do not really require an AI assessment or a response audio. So we'll be just taking questions input directly for the screening level of questions. All right. Do you have any other offers in hand? No, I do not. What is my current CTC? Let me put my current CTC as 18 LPA. All right. And what is my salary expectation? I would put as 20 LPA. All right, let's see. Expected joining date is in 1 to 2 months. Can you be joined? Yes, I will be able to join by this date. Are you willing to work in a hybrid arrangement? Yes, of course, I'll be fine with that. Yep, that's the standard work timings. All right. Thank you. Your interview is over. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much. All right, let's complete the interview and let's go see the analysis now. All right. Okay, we have completed the interview. Let's now go and see how my AI analysis looks. You can see my score is around 88%. That means there was something that I was probably missing. You can see this is what my interview analysis would look like. This is my introductory question. This is the AI assessment that I gave, and you can see the entire depth of the conversation over here. And you can see at the end the candidate described owning lead scoring metric, and they defined success metric. Okay, this demonstrate competence in defining requirements, automating processes, and measuring impact, which was the goal of the question that the AI was trying to assess. Now you can see the second answer that I have sort of given is not very satisfactory, because I purposefully messed up my answers a little bit so that you can see how the AI actually can determine the evaluation of the candidate. The candidate describes running A/B tests on app, UI, etc., marketing channels, and a referral program claiming 10% increase evaluation. Okay. However, response remains vague, which I did purposely. Lacks specifics on controls on variant setup, exact roles and design analysis, etc., precise metrics. So the AI was not super happy, even though I spoke a lot, I gave a lot of details, but because I did not specifically answer all the questions, it was quite strict in my evaluation, and it did not give me a satisfactory response for this. You can see for my role at Testline also, this is the entire conversation, and the AI says that the candidate provided solid overview of their freelance role at Testline, emphasizing all the details. So it gave me like a satisfactory score. Similarly, for my short duration also, I got a satisfactory score from the AI because I was able to properly describe what my roles and responsibilities were and the internships were. So great. Again, this is motivation question. There's no AI assessment for this. And you can see this is something called the requirement fit check. I match all of the requirements that are needed and are actually questioned in the screening interview by the HRs that if I meet the requirement or not, and this can be taken and sent directly to the HR managers because the candidate is willing to meet all the job requirements. These requirements and the details of these questions and how am I giving this a fit score or not comes purely from the job creation step. All of these details are asked you at the time of job creation, and this can help anybody make a very comprehensive decision whether the candidate is fit to be sent to the HRs or to the hiring managers for further processes of their interviews or not. Thank you. That's about it. This is Romit Shrivastava, founder of Talsek, and that was the demo that I gave for a screening interview of our product. Thank you.